if you look at the life of man, you will realize that the human being cannot just live without God, cannot do without God, cannot survive without God. It's just like the fish cannot survive without water. Where can you find fish alive and it's not inside water? So that is why in Acts chapter 17, the Apostle Paul said, for in him we live and move and have our being. That means you take man out of God, man cannot survive. And every man that is out of God is dead. When Adam and Eve lost their fellowship with God because of sin, it was considered death at the spiritual level before they even died physically. So that means existence ceased and life is evacuated in the absence of God. Life does not function, the human life cannot function in the absence of God. Outside God, life is not true. Life cannot be true. There cannot be life outside God. In John, 1 John chapter 5 verse 12, the Bible says that he that have the Son has life. He that has no the Son has no God life. And the Son here is talking about God. So outside of nothing. So we expect and we trust, we depend, we look up to God for everything. So man is absolutely, completely dependent on God. And we look up to God to do something unto us. Our food comes from God. Breath from God. Food from God. Strength from God. Peace from God. Everything is from God. Our daily life and existence from God. That is why Paul asked the Corinthians believers in 1 Corinthians chapter 4. He says, what do you have that you have not received it? What do you have that has not been given unto you? And the same Acts of the 17th verse 25, the Bible says that for he giveth unto us all things. All things. He gives us all things. So there is nothing you can get and it's not a gift of God. If you have anything now and you are a child of God, then it's a gift of God. Your life is a gift. Whatsoever you have is a gift. The knowledge you have is a gift. Brain is a gift. Eyes is a gift. Thinking is a gift. Wife is a gift. Money, all these are God's provision. But and in as much as we must look up to God, it is very clear that our daily survival depends on Him, and man's completeness and satisfaction comes from God. And if God does not do for man, then man cannot do for himself. If God does not help, that is why in, I believe, 1 Kings chapter 7, when there was hunger in Samaria, that was even around the chapter 6, and the women started cooking their children one after the other, and two of them conspired to cook their children and eat, and one had obeyed and they ate his child today. The next day was to eat the other lady's child, and she refused. And the other one's child they ate retorted and took it upon herself to pay vengeance. Why she didn't know what to do and saw the king of Samaria, Israel, passing by, she cried out and laid down complaining. And you know what she said? She said, the king, help me. And the king replied, how can I help if God cannot help? How can I help if God cannot help? John chapter 15, verse 5, Jesus said, without me, you can do nothing. So every day we are looking up to God for help. Like David shouted in Psalm 121 and said, I will look up unto the mountains. From whence cometh my help? For my help cometh from the Lord. So man have to look up to God for help. And we daily look up to him for help. Every time we look up to him for help, for intervention. And there is no day we are not expectant. Every day we are expecting, we are anticipating. And we wish we can get everything that we need from him. That is why we even pray. And even those who don't even pray, they expect it to come just like that, coincidental. And it is true. What is true? God offers. God gives. He is the source of everything. For he is the creator. Your life came from him. The earth came from him. The heavens came from him. The mountains came from God. The sea came from God. Water, air, everything came from God. And there is nothing he has not created. He himself is created by none, but he created all. And he gives us all. That's what the Bible testifies. He gives us all. He provides all. And man look up to him for so many things.
Anywhere you lead.